Welcome to the Everymaker. My name is Nick and I got myself some business cards. I'm super happy with the way they came out, but I need a way to carry them with me. So I'm going to make this little business card holder. I'm a hoarder. I keep pretty much all of my wood scraps, especially if it's hardwood. But today, it's time to go through those scraps and make a business card holder. I have some leftover walnut and hickory from a lawn game I made for my wedding, and that's what I'm using today. I'm going to use the hickory for the edges, so to start, I'm going to clean up one of the edges of the board. It's already the right thickness, but I need to cut it down to about 1/4 of an inch for the width. One strip would probably be enough. It doesn't really take much, but I cut 2 just to make sure I have enough if I screw up, and yes, I did need both. The walnut is going to be the face sides of the card holder. I started by cutting it down to width as well. I used the hickory as spacers and lined up my business card to set up the stop block, making sure to leave a little bit extra in length as I'll be cutting this board again for the lid. I cut both faces out individually, but if you were batching these out, you could cut an entire stack of boards. I carefully lined up where I wanted the faces cut for the lid and used 2 boards for the stop to keep them from slipping. Once the faces were all cut out, I used a flat board and some self-adhesive sandpaper to make sure that they were completely flat. I decided to miter the corners of the hickory so the end grain wouldn't show. I used an old x-acto knife saw and a miter box to cut the 45-degree angles. With the first angle cut, I used the actual lid piece to measure the second cut. For the sides, I left the board a little longer for the hinge and the latch. With all the lid pieces cut out, it was time to glue everything together. I use super glue as it is plenty strong for this purpose and dries very quickly. I drilled a small hole through the hinge on the lid on the drill press, then used a cordless drill to transfer the holes to both of the face pieces. Then it was time to cut the sides for the body, and for this, I decided to use the miter sled jig for the table saw. Quick tip, when needing to trim a piece by a small amount, press it up against the blade while it's off, use another piece of wood to clamp it in place, then run it back through the saw. This will shave off very fine amounts and keep your fingers far away from the blade. I glued in the bottom piece into place. Then I temporarily connected the lid with a small nail to mark out where the hinge and the latch would line up. Then I used those marks to mark the final length of each side piece and cut them to size. Now that all the pieces were cut out, it was time to glue everything together. Before gluing on the second side, I sanded the base and the lid flush, making sure that they were both exactly the same depth. I used the nail again to make sure everything was nice and lined up and glued the second side on. Once the glue was dry, I took the base over to the belt sander to round over the corner by the hinge and filed down the inside corner near the hinge to make sure that it wasn't stopping the lid from opening all the way. For the hinge, I'm just going to use an old piece of 12 gauge copper wire. Why 12 gauge? Well, because that's what I had. When I drilled the hole, I drilled it slightly smaller than the wire. That way it gave me a nice friction fit and I wouldn't have to worry about it ever falling out. I cut the wire flush with my x-acto saw, then took the completed box over to the belt sander and flushed everything up and rounded over all the corners. Just a little bit of hand sanding to get everything smooth, and then it was time for the finish. For the finish, I use Danish oil, which is an oil varnish blend. It's really easy to apply. Just wipe it on, let it sit for a little while, and wipe off the excess. Just a few coats and you'll get a really nice finish that still feels like wood. There's just something about using hardwood in a project that takes it to a whole nother level. So if you've only had the opportunity to use construction grade lumber or plywood, this is a great project to start with because it uses a very small amount of wood. I used walnut and hickory because I love the contrast of these two woods. Added this little copper pin to give a nice little accent to the piece. It's very, very sturdy and it's super, super thin, about the width of a cell phone, so it'll fit in my pocket without any concerns there at all. It only holds about 4 business cards, but that's because my business cards are stupid thick. So if you have normal size business cards, this will hold about 12 to 14 or so. I would love to hear what you guys think of this project, so leave me a comment down below, and if you liked it, hit that like button as well. If you want to see what's coming up on the Everymaker, a couple things for you to do. Hit that subscribe button so you can continue seeing these videos, but also go check out my Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook because I'm posting behind the scenes and continuing the conversation over on those networks. So if you do decide to make this project, I would greatly appreciate it if you posted a picture and let me know. You can tag me on any of those sites at the Everymaker. And I would love to see what you guys come up with. So thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it very much. And I'll see you guys again real soon.